Alright, let's take a look at question 2a. Use the square root property to solve the equation. So the square root property is essentially to isolate anything that's squared and then take the square root. So we have 16 times x squared, so I'll divide by 16 and I'll get x squared is equal to 17 over 16, and then I'll take the square root of both sides. Now, some important things to realize is when you apply the square root, it makes it plus or minus. And when you take the square root of two things, when we're dividing, we can separate them into two different square roots. So we have the square root of 17 over the square root of 16. Now we know the square root of 16 is 4, so we can say x is equal to plus or minus square root 17 over 4. The square root of 17 doesn't come out nice, so we just leave it as the square root of 17. And there it is. Okay, let's look at the next one, 2b. Same game, it's a quantity, but you just take the square root of both sides to get rid of the square. You get k plus 6. Again, remember when you take the square root, it's plus or minus, so it's plus or minus 28. We'll subtract 6 over. We get negative 6 plus or minus square root 28. Now if we can break the square root of 28 down, we go ahead and do so. Here, we really can't break it down like to a perfect. We can take a square root of 4 out. And the logic that I kind of more or less follow is if it's even, I try 4. If it's odd, I try 9. Most of the time, that's sufficient to work. Honestly, here, I look at 28 and I see, hey, I know that 4 times 7 is 28. So you can also see that there's an emphasis on making sure you know your multiplication tables, because if you don't, this becomes really difficult to do. So the answer is k is equal to negative 6 plus or minus 2 square root 7. And I want to stress here, just to be super clear, this means negative 6 plus 2 square root 7. It also means negative 6 minus 2 square root 7. Cool. The last one, okay, so this one doesn't have square roots in it initially, so, well, I'm sorry, it has a squared, so what we'll do is we'll subtract 48. We're going to just try to get the x squared by itself. Then I'll divide by 12. And then I'm going to take a square root. Now when we take the square root, what's interesting here is that we end up getting the square root of negative 4. Now the square root of 4 is 2. But because of that negative, we end up getting 2i. Again, because we took the square root, we get plus or minus 2i, and that's what x is equal to. And there you have it. So that's all there is to it. Hopefully that makes sense. See you in the next video.